Hi, this is Jacqueline, the Empowered Parent. Happy season's greetings. Merry Christmas to you all. It's been a little while, but today I just thought I'd come on briefly to just show you what I'm preparing for this season. There's a range of things I'm preparing. There's not that many. I'm keeping it simple. But I'm making mandazis, which is an East African kind of donut. For Nigerians, it would be equivalent to the puff puff, I believe. But it's certainly, there are similarities, but they're not exactly the same. So here I've got flour, which is about maybe half a pack of your average flour that you buy, the size that you get the flour, either the plain or the self-raising, half of that. I've got 2 eggs. I don't know if you can say. Yeah, I've got 2 eggs in there. I've got about half a cup of sugar, and I've got half a cup of milk. That could be whole milk or semi-skimmed. It doesn't matter. Then if the flour is plain, you can add self-raising baking powder, I beg your pardon, of about a full teaspoon, roughly. And if you've got cinnamon, you can add a teaspoon of that as well. Now, there are variations of this mandazi, but today I'm making the plainest, and I'm just going to add what I've told you that I'll be adding, and I'll let it sit for a little while. Meanwhile, we can talk about other things. I was just dunning down on the Christmas season, and I was thinking about the roles of men and women that we have, in this society or wherever. And I just think that it's really quite a challenge when you are a single mother, when you are, whether you're a single mother or not, but more so when you're a single mother, the challenges and the demand and responsibilities are quite a lot. They're really, really significant. And during this time, when the Christmas season comes, I'm reaching a point where I actually just want to keep things really simple. So whether it's buying things that are like party type of food, or I'm not saying buy ready-made food, and not everybody really wants to eat party type of snacks like from Iceland here in UK. I'm talking about. Sometimes you've got to have a bit of those things, because if you feel physically overwhelmed and you can't bring yourself to actually cooking a range of meals, at least you've got something there. Or what I tend to do now is I tend to prepare in advance. So very often, like this Christmas now, I'm preparing these mandazis as a snack. And then what we are going to have is fish. I've got tilapia. I thought we haven't had tilapia for a while, and I'll have tilapia. All I have to do is it's defrosted already. All I need to do is to actually just damp it down, dry it off, and season it. Put it back in foil paper. Put it back in the fridge, and actually just grill it first thing tomorrow in the oven. That's done. First thing in the morning or later in the evening, I'll just peel potatoes and leave them in water so that they'll parboil in the morning, straight into roasting as well. And then I'm doing like a spinach that is with peanut butter. Now, away from the menu and back to the topic that I want to talk about, the roles of men and women in this society. It's really challenging, and it's overwhelming. There are days, we work full-time, we work part-time, we are carers, we are mothers. And honestly, I was listening to somebody talking about the same thing, that she's from Kenya, she went to the States, and how challenging it is to actually bring up our children, when we are abroad. You find yourself single-handedly raising young men, for instance, boys into young men. And the ways of the UK or the USA are not the same as the ways of bringing them up in Africa. So she was asking, how do you all cope? How do you maneuver? Well, I've raised 4 young men up. One's still 15, that's the youngest. For those of you already tuned into this channels before, you've heard that one, the eldest 25, 23, 19 and 15. And for much of the part of it, I've raised them up single-handedly. I think that you just have to be continuous with what you are doing. And I'm not saying anybody isn't. But how I've managed and coped with it over the years is to just be intentionally continuous about everything and not to take anything for granted. Every single thing that you do, be intentional about it. It will come back. Scriptures tell us that raise a child the way they should go and they will come back to it. So once you've done everything as a parent, as a mother, more likely than not, the basis of what you've taught your children and how you've brought them up is going to stand. There's instances of young people, young boys especially, are sensitive when they get into teenagehood and join groups, go to school, and perhaps they find that maybe they haven't got the same opportunities, or they haven't got the same type of clothes, for instance, or they haven't got the same type of trainers. That alone can actually make them fall into bad groups. And so what could happen is that they could join bad groups and maybe perhaps even start doing things to make money that they shouldn't do, such as maybe drug selling and so forth and so forth. That then turns things around, but it is not because of how you brought them up, but rather it is because of where they found themselves to be. How do you turn that situation around? I think continuing to talk to the young person, if anybody ever finds themselves in that situation, I think continuing to talk to the young person is probably the best way to do it. And to actually basically just in all this telling off, shouting and yelling, over the years I've realized it doesn't help. I'm not saying that I always yelled and shouted, or anybody is, but I am saying that I took stand, and usually I sit my children down and I do talk to them. I do really talk with, I drill into them the consequences of what could be if they did something particular, for instance. It may not sink in at the time, but as time goes, they come back and say to you, you know what? We've actually, I believe, Mommy, you were right. You were right about what you said, and I now understand it. And you find that sometimes with prayers, there was something that I went through with two of my sons. It was drilled, it was spoken about. We tried to get outsiders to come in, experts, to talk to them and so forth. But I remember that one time I took a bottle of oil and I prayed over it. I still went to the person that was, spiritually in charge of me at the time. That was prayed over, and I was told, arrest them while they're asleep. And that's exactly what I did. I came back. When I say arrest, I prayed over them. I anointed them while they were asleep. Guess what? The next day, get up and said, Mommy, I'm turning around and I'm changing now. And that was it. That changed completely. So I encourage us to be prayerful. I encourage us to keep doing what we are doing. Nothing really is in vain. Don't give up. I always say on this channel that it always looks like as though there is no way out, but there is always hope when there is life. It always looks like as though, how am I going to see this thing through? How will this pass? Will this challenge or this behavior go past? Yes, it will. It will by God's grace. And I can say I'm a testimony to a lot of trials and challenges whilst bringing up these children. So that was a short word of encouragement and just showing you what I'm doing here. The door is not quite there yet because I've been talking. I haven't been needing it so much. So I'll just keep doing that now. And if the camera goes off or it stops by itself, Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon. By God's grace, showing you what I've cooked this season. Thank you very much. I'll just show the dough briefly, if I will, or if I can. Oh, there we are. Yeah.